have a secret. Something so deep down that not even my closest friends or family would be able to tell you about this. But I fucking love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I've seen a decent amount of this stuff. Mostly my exposure was the 2003 cartoon when I was growing up and the 2012 cartoon when I was in middle school. But something about those little green turds just gets my brain going. So in the aftermath of Mutant Mayhem, which I saw and really liked, if you want to check that out, it's on my channel, I decided it might be fun to make a big old video where I go back and take a look at the cinematic history of the Turtles, give us some thoughts on it, maybe have a little fun along the way, and then I'll throw them all in a ranking at the end. As of making this video, I have only seen 4 of the cinematic Turtle movies, and I do not remember 3 of them, so this is pretty much all new to me. And without further ado, let's just jump right in with the first movie.
Major League Butt Kicking is back in town! Oh yeah!
So, the year is 1990. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie has just come out. A lot of major studios were turning down distributing it, thinking that it would be a financial failure, but it ends up being a pretty big success. On a budget of only $13.5 million, it brought in $202 million worldwide. Those aren't necessarily Avatar numbers, but for such a low-budget film, that's a pretty big take-home. Most of the photography was done in North Carolina, but there is a good amount that was shot on location in New York as well. But I think hands down the most ambitious part of the filmmaking is the 4 turtle puppet costumes and the Splinter puppet that were constructed by the Jim Henson Company. These puppets still look really good. They hold up very well, and I was really surprised. At points, you kind of even forgot that there's people inside of them. That's how good they still managed to look. I think for making a movie at this time about the Ninja Turtles, doing big puppets like this was definitely the way to go. And when they're flipping around fighting, it looks pretty convincing. So the film starts out with April getting jumped by a bunch of high schoolers in an alleyway and getting saved by the Turtles. Afterwards, they take her back to the sewer, Splinter tells us the Turtles' backstory, and then Raphael throws a hissy fit and leaves. And I'll say now, this is going to be a trend in pretty much every Turtle movie from now on. After Raphael leaves, he gets into a fight with the very greasy and smelly looking Casey Jones. And I do love how Casey is like so shocked to find out that Raphael is a turtle, as if that big fedora was somehow hiding that. We learn that Shredder has an army of a bunch of virgin teenagers, and they are the Foot Clan in this movie. And right off the bat, that's the first thing that's pretty fucking weird. I kind of had trouble buying the fact that Shredder's army of dangerous ninjas are all teenagers. The place that the Foot Clan is operating out of is also like the coolest place ever. All the kids are smoking, drinking, skateboarding. I mean, this is really like El Dorado for 15-year-old boys. Splinter gets kidnapped while the Turtles are bringing April home, and eventually the Turtles all get attacked at April's apartment, where Raphael gets the piss and snot kicked out of him and gets thrown through the goddamn roof. The visual of Raphael's limp body falling to the ground is really horrifying. This is a pretty cool thing, I think, to happen in the middle of a kid's movie. It's very rare these days to see the heroes lose this hard. And I mean, Raphael almost dies. Like, they really lose. But luckily, Casey Jones shows up and they escape. They go and hang out at April's ranch for a while until Raphael gets a little bit less dead. And then they can go back and have their final battle with Shredder. I was kind of surprised how much of this movie is just kind of meandering around this house, waiting for Raphael to get better. I didn't necessarily mind it. I actually like stuff like this. Like, I like the part in Age of Ultron where the heroes are just kind of like licking their wounds at Hawkeye's house. So I actually enjoyed this part quite a lot, and there's a bunch of funny jokes in it.
Come on! Don't just ninja kick the damn rabbit! Do something!
But good things can't last forever, and Splinter sends them a mind email so that they can go back and fight Shredder again. This is also when we learn more about Splinter's backstory, which is pretty similar to how it was in the original comic. I don't really get why this is the more typical Splinter backstory. I know it's not in every iteration, it is the original, but I actually do prefer when he was like a human that turned into a rat, because I think that kind of makes the rivalry between him and Shredder a little more believable. Not that I mind things being goofy in a Ninja Turtle movie, but I always found the fact that Shredder was beefing with a rat to be a little bit much. And in the finale, I think it actually has some pretty good action. Like I said earlier, the puppets are really believable, and I'm surprised how much they got away with while doing full body puppets like that. The turtles always do this really cute little move where they smush people between their four shells. I like how Shredder really just wipes the floor with every turtle, and Splinter has to be the one to come in and like actually take him down. I think that's pretty cool, rather than having them be like, we gotta work together or something. It's like, no, the four turtles are just no match for Shredder. And then Splinter throws him in a garbage truck in case he pulls the lever like an absolute maniac. Oops! I'm not gonna lie, I like this movie quite a lot. It sounds like I'm shitting on it a little bit, but no, I have no hot take here. I thought both Michelangelo and Raphael were pretty spot on personality-wise. Michelangelo has one of like my favorite lines of dialogue in a turtle movie, which was, God, I love being a turtle! I felt like that summed up his character pretty well. And I appreciate that the turtles don't really have like a desire to be human. That's a pretty common trope nowadays in the turtle stuff that I've seen. And, you know, it's kind of refreshing that they just like being turtles so much. What I didn't like is that I feel like Leonardo and Donatello kind of did not have any personality of their own. And maybe I'm coming at this as a Donatello fan, but they really don't make him smart at all. He's just kind of another Michelangelo, who's just a little less outgoing. And I'm pretty sure Leonardo, like, doesn't say anything the entire movie. At one point, Raph calls him the leader, but it feels more like a dig than it does, like, him actually acknowledging that Leonardo is the leader, because not like he does anything that a leader would do at any point. But besides that, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the puppetry was really good, and I appreciated that as a Muppet fan. And one day, I will watch it again. So, moving on, let's go to... Two Teenage Two Turtles. After the first one was a success and a cheap to make success, a sequel was a no-brainer. The Jim Henson Shop came back for this one again. This movie is actually dedicated to Jim Henson because it came out only a year after he had died. And this movie takes place pretty soon after the first movie, with the turtles still crashing with April for a while their place is destroyed from the events of the last movie. This movie starts out with this little shit Kino, right off the bat, fat shaming some of like the least fat looking girls I've ever seen in my entire life.
But when I do, I'll dream of something a little thinner.
90s and early 2000s movies loved fat shaming girls that were not fat.
You know Natalie, who works here?
The chubby girl, pretty sizable ass there, yes sir. Huge thighs.
After that, he intercepts a robbery, and we get literally the coolest intro scene I think I've ever seen. No joke, this totally rocks. I genuinely have no issues with this. It was so fun. I literally wanted to get up and cheer when the logo came on screen and the turtles crashed through the window. So the plot of this movie is that Shredder didn't actually die, who knew? And he wants to use the ooze that made the turtles to make an army of mutants for his own, and blah blah blah. Doesn't really matter. I don't need to go through the nitty gritty with you. The movie as a whole dives a lot more into the ooze and the origins of the turtles, for better or for worse. It talks a lot about the ooze. Prepare to hear ooze quite a lot. One thing I can say for certain about this movie is that they have made Shredder absolutely hilarious.
Babies! They're babies!
Babies! They're babies! Usually in the Turtles things, the turtles occupy the goofy space and Shredder is very serious. But nope, he's just kind of a dork in this one. I find it really funny that the two mutants that he decides to make are because he chose the fiercest of all animals, and he picks a wolf and a snapping turtle. This is something that a kid playing with action figures would do, where they're like, well, this guy's really strong because he fought a tiger, and then a wolf, and then a viper, and then a bear. Anyway, Raphael and his new little bully friend try and take them down after Raphael throws another temper tantrum because Leonardo is being mean to him, and then they get caught. But don't fret. The rest of the turtles are coming. And they also get caught. Oh man, this net is so thick. If only one of us had a katana or two katanas right now. Yeah, the turtles don't use their weapons at all in this movie. I think it's a censorship thing, but specifically Raph and Leo don't do anything with them. Besides, I think Raph uses his sai to stab a piece of pizza at one point. But then they escape, and they begin fighting the new two mutants, who are named Toka and Razar, by the way, to try and give them their tummy medicine so that they'll relax and turn back into normal animals. That leads them to a fight into a club where Vanilla Ice is here, and he's singing the turtle rap, and the turtles get on stage, and the crowd is getting hype, and does it sound like I don't like this movie? If not, I hope it doesn't, because this bit right here is genuinely so much fun. I was having so much fun watching this movie. I don't think it's quite as good as the first one, but it is still quite a bit of fun. The puppeteering is still pretty good, the action is fun, it's funny, Splinter makes the turtles do flips as punishment. So yeah, I think we got 2 solid movies. Let's hope the next one keeps up the trend. Ninja Turtles 3 is a really bizarre movie. This is just an odd duck. I don't understand much of the thought process behind it. A lot of the charm of the last 2 is being set in New York, and it feeling like the threats were pretty close to home, but when they were making the third one, fuck it, time travel. If you don't know, this movie involves the Turtles heading back to feudal Japan to go and save April because she got swapped in place with a guy in feudal Japan who was holding the same staff as her. It says here that they got swapped because they were the same weight. Alright, let's back up. So April's going on vacation, and she comes back to give the turtles gifts, and then she touches the staff, and she gets sent back to feudal Japan. You know, it actually doesn't look like I needed to back up that far. That's pretty much all there is to it. They also immediately figure out what happened to April. It's like she disappears, and someone's like, I bet she went back to feudal Japan. And they're all like, yeah, sound logic. So they start prepping to rescue April, and oh my god, Casey is back, let's go! Except no, he's not back. He just has to Splinter sit this whole time. The turtles figure out that in order to go back in time, they switch spots with the people who are in that time, and they switch clothes. So Michelangelo is like, hey, if they switch with us, they're gonna be naked. So I'm gonna put on shorts. And then Splinter starts yelling, no, there's no time. But there like totally was. I think Splinter wanted to see the naked dudes who came back through the portal.
Coming.
Anyway, once they get to the past, they have this weird time travel variant who's like identical to Casey Jones, and he hangs out with them the whole time, but they never say anything about it. I just don't get why Casey couldn't come on the adventure. Oh, I guess someone had to give Splinter his pill at 4:30 and entertain the men from feudal Japan, who I guess are the same weight as 4 big giant turtles. I don't understand the weight thing. They keep mentioning it, but like, why not just make it random who you swap places with? It doesn't matter. The weight never comes into play. Like, it doesn't matter that the weight of the person you're displaying. I just don't understand. I'm getting upset. So the movie just kind of involves them dicking around feudal Japan, and overall, it's just pretty boring. The turtle suits also look way cheaper in this movie. It really manages to look much worse than the last 2. The turtles look kind of sick. Not sick like cool, like they look ill.
Very compelling kind of a figure. Odd-looking duck. But there's something about his eyes. Hypnotic.
The movie is more or less a generic, let's learn to love the town thing, where the turtles just want to go home, but then they have to learn to fight for what is right or whatever. It's not that interesting. But what is interesting is what they do with Raphael here, I actually thought was really cute. We find out that he's good with kids, and one in particular, and I thought that was a nice arc for him to have. On an unrelated note, the kid does have to act dead at one point, and it is certainly a good attempt. Also, the villain here is really acting like his rent is due. He's really given the
What comes next?
Anyway, they kick Jonathan Groff into the water, and he kind of disappears. I'll slow it down for you. Look, the water just kind of like opens, and he gets sucked in. Another good thing about this movie is that Donatello does smart stuff now. And they use the weapons, hey! So the turtles decide to head home, and Mikey ends up hesitating because he wants to stay with his new girlfriend, but she tells him to hit the road because she wants her actual boyfriend back, and yeah, I gotta side with her here. Mikey, you promised her that you'd get him back. That was like the whole condition of you helping her, and now you're mad that she still wants that to be the deal? I don't know, man. Also, this whole time, I totally forgot to mention that Casey has just been corralling these 4 confused Japanese men who came through the portal. I do not know why he even needed to be in this movie. Why did anybody need to switch places with anybody? Everyone could have just been touching the staff at the same time and got sucked into the past. And why bring Casey back if he doesn't get to go on the adventure? Once they get back, Michelangelo's all depressed because his girlfriend doesn't want him anymore, and Splinter's just like, hey, chin up, Michelangelo. Just dance. And then the turtles all dance. And then the movie ends. I don't mind. I like when movies end with dance parties. So I don't think this movie is quite as bad as its reputation had led on. Its biggest offense is being really boring, and that just time travel was a weird thing to do in general for a Turtles movie. especially when like Shredder and the Foot are not involved at all. Like I thought maybe they would be like, oh, this is like the precursor to the Foot who's invading this like village or whatever, but that's not the case. And I don't get why if you're gonna do a third Turtles movie, you have like a whole wealth of non-Shredder villains that you haven't used yet, like Bebop and Rocksteady and Krang, and instead of using any of them, you just do time travel. So it's not a surprise that this is the one that killed the franchise for a little while. But there you have it. Those are the original 3 Turtle movies. I do need to split this into a second video because honestly watching this much Ninja Turtles in a short amount of time has been a bit much. But next time I'm going to tackle the beloved and iconic Michael Bay movies and the CGI movie from 2007, which I think might have been the first movie I ever saw in theaters, but I do not remember it. So look out for that.
Coming.